Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Can you believe it's almost Christmas time or end of the year? If you don't celebrate Christmas, it's pretty radically crazy. And we had our Spotify Wrapped a few weeks ago, which was interesting to see our stats. So to those of you that have been supporting us, thank you so much for everything that you have done over the year. We're not here to talk about that there. As always, we start the podcast to share. And over the last week, something I've been reflecting on is something I heard a few times. We've heard the saying, practice makes perfect. So I've never really, initially I was like, yeah, this makes sense. And then I was like, going on, I was like, actually, that doesn't make any sense because if you're practicing something that's wrong, you're going to make it more wrong. Practice doesn't really make perfect. And I heard two different ways of thinking about practice, and I really, really enjoyed that. The first one was practice makes progress. I was like, oh, this is very true because if you practice, you make progress. But then you add the word perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect progress. Boom, I was like, that is crazy. So I like to say perfect practice makes perfect progress. But also, the other word I heard was practice makes permanent. And again, that was really powerful because if you're doing things incorrectly, it becomes permanent. If you're doing things correctly, it becomes permanent as well. So this saying of practice makes perfect, my challenge for you out there listening is maybe rethink about how you think about the word practice makes perfect and either choose or think about practice makes permanent or perfect practice makes perfect progress. And that has been my learning over the last week or so, actually over the last few months. But as always, it's not about me, it's about our guests. And today I'm very excited and very privileged and honored to welcome our guest, who has been someone that we've watched on the podcast for a while. But those of you that have listened for a while, you know that our podcast has timing and the universe provides when it provides, and the universe provided at the right time because somebody else from another part of my world suggested I should get this person on my podcast. And I was like, yep, I've already got them on the podcast. Boom, here we go. So without further ado, welcome to Baskets of Knowledge, Mackenzie.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a privilege and an honour to sit here with you today and get to chat. I'm super excited to be here.
And I'm so excited as well. Mackenzie, for people who know nothing about you, who is Mackenzie today on the 13th of December, 2025?
So I am Mackenzie Wills. I am 19 years old and I just finished up my first year at the University of Canterbury doing law and political science, which has been super interesting and super exciting. I also am I would probably say that I'm a youth advocate. So I work really closely with my local youth council. So I am going into my 5th year working with the youth council. So I was chair for 2 years, then I've moved into a youth mentor role, and then next year I'm moving into team lead. So that is a big part of my world, working with local young people in my community, supporting them, and also giving them a voice at the table with our local district council. So I do a lot of work in the community advocacy space. I get to work with some pretty cool organizations, doing some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and kind of what I do in my world.
I love it. And I'm gonna touch on heavily into your work with the Southern Youth Council because I think that's really, really cool. You said next year will be year number 5. Let's reverse and go back to 7 years ago, before we even thought about this. 7 years ago, if I said to you, hey, Mackenzie, you were going to be a really integral part of the Southern Youth Council, what would you have said to me at that point in time?
I think I would have been quite kind of shocked at where this journey kind of has taken me with the youth council. I mean, leadership has always kind of been a big part of my life, growing up being at primary school and kind of in those starting kind of journeys that I've had, I always was very drawn to kind of leadership and kind of like what that looked like. I definitely was quite often labeled as bossy as a young person, and that was something that I dreaded, was being called bossy. But I kind of started to learn that bossy kind of wasn't actually that bad, and that often when people called me bossy, it was often their way to kind of dumb down or kind of tear down what I was doing. And yeah, probably 7 years ago, I couldn't even really tell you kind of what the youth council was or what it looked like or what they did. Like, I knew that it existed, but kind of the workings around what they were was very unknown to me. So I think, yeah, if you told me 7 years ago that I would be going into my 5th year with them and what the last 5 years have looked like, I would be, yeah, pretty shocked and pretty taken aback of, wow, that's actually, yeah, quite powerful, yeah, stuff. So it's been, yeah, a really good ride so far.
It's pretty crazy, when you reflect back on life and you think, and this is for everybody out there, when you think about what you're doing now, and you go, would I have done this before? Probably the answer is no, but things happen in life. And it's really interesting. The other day we had a guest on our podcast who said nothing is linear in life. So we always talk about, is there a moment in life when this happened? But actually that doesn't happen. It's just something makes it happen. But in that vein, what was it that made you decide to start being part of the youth council?
So they were going through their recruitment process and they were advertising online and things like that. And my mum actually saw it pop up on Facebook and she was like, oh, like, the youth council could be like really cool. Like, it looks really awesome. They do like events and stuff like that. Like, maybe you should just kind of put an application in. So yeah, I chucked my application in. There was kind of just like a few questions, just kind of the general, like, why do you want to join? Kind of what values do you have that align with ours and stuff like that. So I put an application in, and then I actually got a call. It must have been like 2 days before Christmas. So like around kind of similar timing now, 5 years ago, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, they were like, oh, we'd love for you to come join the youth council. And I was like, awesome. And then, yeah, the following year I started in January, and yeah, it kind of just kicked off from there. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome to kind of be so involved in like the change of the youth council, like kind of seeing it from the start when I was only 14 when I joined. So kind of being to almost kind of aging with the youth council has been really cool as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? And I was looking at one of your posts, and the one that really saw was the one where you spoke about you wish 9-year-old Mackenzie could meet 19-year-old Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Because that's so powerful, and I'd love for you to talk about how you that reflective piece as you wrote about that, because again, there's the Self Youth Council, then there's also Zonta as well. And we think about the two together, how has that shaped the way you thought about where you've been over the last 10 years?
I think, well, so I attended the Zonta conference back in October up in Wellington. That invited me to come and speak at their conference about leadership and my journey. And I think having an organization reach out to me and be like, we want to pay for like your flights and everything to bring you to this event was kind of the first time that something kind of like that had happened. And I was just like, wow, like they want to hear me talk and they want to hear from me. And I think it was so like interesting kind of after the conference, and I was really kind of reflecting on it. And yeah, I was reflecting and I was like, wow, if 9-year-old me saw all of the things that I've accomplished in the last 10 years, I honestly don't think that she would believe me. And I think that there was something so powerful in being able to recognize kind of my own personal growth. Because I mean, I think, like I kind of do all these things in the community and do all these things for organizations. And you always have people going, wow, like, you're so awesome, like you're doing all these incredible things. But I think to actually take a minute to personally reflect on my journey and actually what the last 10 years have looked like, there was something very kind of internally powerful about that. And yeah, it was pretty incredible to kind of think, wow, my life has definitely changed, and to only be 19 and have achieved so much, like I know that that is something so special and so incredible. I know that there's definitely not a lot of 19-year-olds out there that can kind of say that their life has changed so much in the last 10 years. So yeah, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that have been given to me to kind of make me be able to have that reflection, I think. Yeah.
I love the power of reflection, because most of us don't take time to reflect about the things that we've done. Whether it's good things or bad things or whatever in life, it's the reflection piece which we don't do. And I love the fact that you have that opportunity to do that there. But what I'd love for you to share is, you think about all the things you've done. Let's talk about some of those things that you have done, some of the things that you're really proud of with whichever hat you've been wearing. There's tons you've done, but maybe a couple that you're like, this is pretty epic.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Probably, yeah, definitely one of the things has been my achievements with the organization Zonta. That's been a really special relationship that I've been able to build with that organization. Yeah, I received a scholarship from them. So it was the Young Women in Leadership Scholarship. And they had pushed it out to our school, and like I got an email from the careers people saying, hey, Mackenzie, like we'd love for you to put your name forward for this scholarship. And I was like, oh, like this looks really awesome. And like my values totally aligned with the organization. It was all about like combating like gender equality and really helping young women achieve success and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. So I put my name forward, and it was for the Zonta North portion of the scholarship. So they kind of have clubs all over New Zealand, and each club gives out $1,000 to one young female. And so I then, got an email to say that I had won the Zonta North scholarship. And I was like over the moon. Like I was like, this is so awesome and everything like that. And we attended a like dinner with the club where they like gifted me my certificate and things like that. And I actually met like the Zonta like president there. She was there. And then it was so funny because they send your application off to the national and the international portion of the scholarship, and like obviously it's not guaranteed. Like all of the winners from New Zealand get put into the national pool, and then the winner of the national pool gets put into the international pool. And it was so funny because the next day I was at school, and it was just kind of like as the phone ban had kind of come in, and I got this email, and it was like, hi, like I really need to give you a call right now. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like it's the middle
Oh,
of the school day. Like
yeah.
she's saying she needs to talk to me now. So I like was able to chat to one of my teachers and let them know that I really needed to take a call, and they let me step outside. And the president had called me, and she said, like like it was so nice to like meet you the other night. And she goes, I just want to let you know that I had no idea about this when I met you, but she said you've actually won the national and the international
Oh,
scholarship.
wow.
And I didn't even know how to respond. Like I have never been speechless in my life, but it was definitely one of those kind of really actually speechless where you just can't even say. And she like just kind of started to explain it, and I was just trying to like take it all in the moment. And like the international scholarship was US money, so it was when you translate that to New Zealand dollars, like it was just like kind of, I was like, wow, like this will pay for my university, my first year of university. Like it was just kind of mind blowing. And then I remember the last thing she said to me on the phone was, oh, but you can't tell anyone yet.
Oh,
And I was just saying there going, okay, so I've got this like huge piece of news, and I'm just having to sit there with it. And I said, can I just at least call my mum and my dad? Like, can I just tell my family? And she goes, yep, you can call them, but you can't tell anyone else until we've released the
yeah.
news on Facebook and on our newsletter and everything later today. So I was like, okay. So I went back into class, and everyone's like, are you okay? Like what was the phone call about? And I was like, oh, nothing. They were just wanting a picture of my certificate from the other night. Like I like had to like fake this whole story. And then it did, get posted on Facebook, and I was finally allowed to kind of actually tell everyone what was going on. But I think that was one of those kind of achievements where you don't expect it to happen at all. Like I never kind of thought just putting that application in would make me one of 37 people across the world to receive that scholarship. And they actually told me that like I was the like first person from Canterbury in the last like 12 years to win the international scholarship, because it's not guaranteed if you win national that you'll receive the international. So that was also quite a proud moment for me to be able to also represent Canterbury at kind of an international level as well. So I think that was, one achievement that has also then built a really beautiful relationship. Like Zonta, they are just incredible. Yeah, they flew me up to Wellington for their conference, and I got to meet a whole bunch of other incredible people, and speak to them kind of about what I've been doing since receiving my scholarship, and just the journey that life has kind of taken me on, which was really special. And they're an incredible organization to work with. So that's definitely been one achievement that I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to do.
Amazing. And I'm going to ask you a question that you might not want to answer. You might find difficult answering. Can you remember what exactly in the scholarship? What did you do to them for them to go, this is pretty epic? What is your activity, I guess, that you think stood out?
It's hard to know. I think probably just a combination of things. I mean, I think on my application, the youth council was probably something that really stood out. Kind of all the projects I've been able to do with the youth council. You know, we've made a video game. We made a video game a few years ago, which was pretty awesome, which you play as if you're the mayor of our district, and you go through. So I think that was kind of a project that probably also did stand out. But I think probably just kind of my passion, I guess, for leadership. I think like it's kind of hard to count on one hand how many kind of different roles and experiences I've had, but I think probably just my passion and my drive for change. I think there's a difference in just being a leader and then being someone who wants to see change. I mean, I think anyone can be a leader if they want to be. Like anyone can put their hand up for a leadership role and do the leadership role. But I think in order to be different, you have to have a passion for the change and a drive for the change. And I think that was probably something that stood out on my application is, I've done kind of all these incredible things, but actually I was able to show what the impact has been on other people from those opportunities. And that's something that I think I always pride myself in, is that everything I do is for other people. I am such a people-oriented person, and people will always come first to me. And, I will always, anything I do will always be for other people and for change of others and to better other people's lives. So I think, that's probably something that definitely stood out on my application, was just, my passion.
And I love what you said, that anyone can be a leader, but a leader that drives change is actually a real leader. Where does this drive for you to make change come from? Do you reckon, is it from your family, or it's just something that's innate in you, or something that happened in your life that you go, actually, I don't like insert X here?
Yeah, I think it's probably such a mix of things. I mean, my family, they are my biggest supporters. They are always in my corner, no matter what. Like, I'll be like, oh, I think this would be quite a cool like project to pitch to the youth council, or I think this will be something quite cool to do. And they've never said no. Like, they have always backed me. They've always been in my corner. And all the times they drove me to meetings, they, like all of the times they got me where I needed to be. They are just my people, and they surround me so well. So I think they really push me to have that passion and that drive. But I also think that, the world we live in is always changing, and it's always different. for everyone. And I think probably also my passion just comes from seeing how different life can look for everyone. And also, I think, yeah, knowing that for some people it can be really hard, but they'll put on a brave face and carry on and stuff like that. So I think just my empathy for not necessarily knowing what people are going through, but just knowing that everyone struggles at some point, and there does need to be change, and there is groups of people that will struggle at different times, but so kind of recognizing those struggles and really being the face for people when they can't be, I think is something as well. So yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think one of the biggest things would be my family and them backing me no matter what my idea is, or no matter where I need to be, or no matter what I'm wanting to do, but also just recognizing that other people might not have a support system like that, and other people might not be able to share their voice. So having to be a voice for other people, yeah, really drives me as well.
I love that. And you saw me smiling a bit there, and I smiled there because it's a common thread about most young people that we have on our podcast, that the drive for change doesn't come from an internal I want to get an award. It actually comes from an extrinsic value that, hey, I'm helping other people. And it really makes me smile because because I'm like, when I was 19 or 18 or 17 or 16, my world was very different. So, kudos to all you young people that are doing some really cool things out there, because it's about helping other people. But as you said before, it's not just about voices, it's about action, because we can all have voices. And there's a quote that I like to post on my Instagram or on my social media all the time, and I heard it before. I was like, every single one of us can be commentators in life, but it's only when you're in the sports field that the real deal happens. So, I love talking about that and posting about that. It's really interesting because nobody likes it when I say that, because it hits a nerve, because I think, it's easy for us to comment on the side, to go, hey, there's no change happening, XYZ. But when you're actually in there, you go, oh, actually, this is why, or this is what we need to be doing. So, beautifully said there. So, also for some context, do you want to let our listeners know about where you live? Because, people from around the world might not know where Selwyn District is, and that it is not an urban center. And I think that's important, because sometimes in urban centers you have opportunities that are much easier, but in a rural district it's very, very different.
Yeah, so yeah, I live in the Selwyn district. So we are located in Canterbury. We're about 25 minutes from Christchurch city centre. But we are, yeah, one of the fastest growing districts in New Zealand at the moment. So we are a mix of rural and kind of urban development. So we, yeah, go quite far. Our district's quite big. I'm kind of more in the centre of it, which is, yeah, a very fast growing, very changeable pace. We've just got the biggest pack and save in the South Island just opened where I live. So that was, quite a big deal for everyone. But yeah, it's definitely quite interesting living in a urban rural mix, and also being not in, a city centre. So yeah, there definitely is a lot of travel involved. I mean, I drive into uni every day. So yeah, there's a lot of commuting and a lot of travel involved. Definitely sometimes when opportunities come up, they're definitely, yeah, more kind of city centre based. But yeah, so mix of rural and urban where I live. Yeah, it's quite interesting living in such a fast pace environment, and there's always new infrastructure going up, there's always new change happening. Yeah, I think we're up to about 83,000 people in Selwyn. 30,000 of those reside in Rolleston, which is kind of like our main centre. So yeah, it's definitely quite interesting. But yeah, so we're a mix of everything out here.
Yeah, and I want that for context, because this is because on the Selwyn Youth Council, it's growing, right? So, what you started off 5 or 6 years ago with the Selwyn District is now very different, because the population has changed.
Yes, yeah, it definitely has. And I mean, when we started, there was, yeah, not a lot necessarily happening in Selwyn. Like, it was just kind of, the same kind of stuff every day. But now that this like mass amount of growth has happened, it's really kind of shifted the needs of the youth council. And there's been a lot more kind of that we've need to come up with and support these young people, because if you live out in Darfield or Kirwee, it's a lot harder to access things than if you are in Rolleston or if you are in Christchurch. So we actually worked on opening a youth hub about 2.5 years ago now, where we have mental health workers, we have alternative education, and we have like a free nurse service, all that run in Rolleston, because there was such a large need for young people to access those services, but travelling into town wasn't an option for them. And I think that really does just show that Selwyn is in some ways isolated, depending on where you live and depending on if you have a license. Our transport system is also one of those battles that we're always fighting, because for some people that live more rurally, they might have to get on a bus at 6 a.m. to be somewhere at 10 because that's the only option for them. So I think that's also been something that's been really incredible, is being able to support those young people to have more access to those services locally. And that's something that we still work on as the Youth Council, is to try and kind of be able to bring the services to them rather than sending them to the services.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Dana, because it puts context into the work that you do. And
Yeah.
The other question I have for you is, someone that sits on the youth council with your other committee members, what are maybe 2 or 3 of things that you see that the youth are really struggling with today? You mentioned the mental health nurse, but I'd love to hear, because we have a lot of people out there that say blah 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 blah, but I'd love to hear from you on the ground what actually are maybe the 3 main things that young people are really facing with as a reality.
I think, obviously, one that I think can be a powerful tool, but also a dangerous tool, is social media. That links with some of the other work I do. So I work with this organization called Tūturu, who helps provide information around drugs, alcohol, gaming, gambling, and social media. And so I get to go with them to community hui's where we speak to parents about what's actually happening for young people in these kind of spaces. And I get to share kind of my lived experience with social media, which is pretty awesome. But I think, social media, and I mean, everyone will say it and everyone has a different opinion and a different story to share. But I've definitely seen the good in social media and the bad. And I think, just navigating that kind of change. And I think especially around AI now as well, anyone can make a picture of anyone doing anything. Anyone can make a fake video. And I think, it's really hard to now tell what's real and what's not. And I think growing up in social media time, and I think even my experience with social media is so different to my younger brother's experience. And kind of, that shift between actually what's safe online and what's not. So I think that's definitely a big thing for young people. But I also think, and it's something that we find with the Youth Council in our surveys all the time, is mental health. And I think social media does play a large role in that. I like to, say that we are the most connected generation, but also the loneliest. We are so chronically online and talking to people all the time, whether it's through, Snapchat or Instagram or sending people reels or TikToks. But actually, if you remove all of that and you were to sit by yourself alone at night, there wouldn't be many young people that wouldn't be struggling. So I think, mental health and social media, they go hand in hand. And I think those two are definitely battles that young people are facing all the time to try and navigate what that looks like.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's something that's becoming really, really obvious in the discourse now. And there's 2 trains of thought out there. The good, the bad, the ugly. And I'd love your thought on the Australian method. I mean, this is just a thought and opinion. It's not a it's not something that the whole world should hang people. Well, Mackenzie said this here, but I just love your thought as a young person, what's happening in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I'm really interested to kind of watch and follow and see how it goes. I think there's always going to be workarounds. And I think we've kind of started to see that come out already as, I saw some videos around some people who were just able to put in a different age, or it was people of age and it was scanning their faces but saying that they look too young. So I think there is no way to fully ban young people from social media. There is always going to be workarounds. I think banning it is never kind of the way to go. I think there is obviously some good in kind of putting in more restrictions and things for young people, but I think it's more around the advocacy and the conversations and being able to have open and honest conversations about what's happening online, rather than just going, no, we've had enough, we're taking it away. Because I had an experience with some hateful social media a while ago. So I was used for clickbait by some media outlets that wrote an article about my school. And it was, the photo at the top was a lovely smiling photo of me. And the title was like, tearful student pleads for new campus. And the article was pretty intense. And it was interesting because they'd actually also recorded me for the radio. And what I said on the radio was not what the article laid out. And it was during a time where there was obviously government budget cuts for everyone. And my school was being told that our second campus wouldn't open, and wouldn't open to the capacity that we were promised. And so our community held a hui, and I spoke, and there was a lot of power and there was a lot of kind of energy in the room. So I did kind of pause to kind of collect my thoughts and stuff, because it was quite, nerve-wracking standing up on a stage with a microphone talking to your community, but also talking to representatives from the government and from the ministry. And they kind of used that to say that I was bawling my eyes out. But of course the photo was me sitting there smiling, looking really happy, and that was posted to Facebook. And within 30 minutes the article had 200 comments on it, and the comments were pretty hard. And I think that really showed to me that there is evil in being online and being on social media. And it was really interesting because all of the people that were commenting about me were adults, and I think there was something quite scary in that they were saying pretty awful things about me, and then of course the article just kept getting shared to other media outlets, and then it was on our community page, and someone I know, they had actually tagged me in the comments, just saying, like, it was positive stuff, but they had tagged me in the comments. And then my Facebook requests were just, I was getting people requesting to be my friend and all of this, and that was so daunting, kind of watching that happen, and watching what people were saying about me, and I was kind of like, wow, this is so scary to think that some people face this online all the time. And once again, luckily I had my family who were there to back me and to support me, and my school was behind me. But I think, if you don't have that support system, and if you don't talk about it, and if no one's there to have those kind of conversations with you about, actually, that's not okay and people shouldn't be saying that stuff online, and having the right support, then I think, it's more definitely around just having the right support and the right conversations. I think, you can take it away and you can ban things, and you can do all of that, but there'll always be workarounds, and there'll always be ways that people will find out how to get back online. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where that phone ban goes and what the outcome is. And it might work really well for some people. Like, it might be quite eye-opening for some people to go, oh, okay, actually I'm okay without social media and I can kind of just carry on. But I think also for some people that rely so heavily on communication and having that connection over social media, it also is probably going to have quite negative withdrawal effects almost. So yeah, really interested to see where it goes on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I like your perspective there because you're a lived experience of somebody that has gone through that has actually had the good and the bad, right? Social media has been really awesome for you in some places, but when it goes bad, it goes really, really bad. And I love what you said there. It's not about the comments and da da da, which are hurtful. It's about the people that you have around you when that happens. Because I think what happens, I mean, this is just me hypothesizing. I think what happens is when all the hates or the evil stuff is being said, a lot of people just internalize it and they believe it and they don't share it with them
Yeah.
because they're afraid to share it, because imagine you're a young person and you put something online and then you go and tell your parents or your family that, oh, and then you're worried about what they're going to say to you as opposed to supporting. And I think this is where the culture change has got to happen. The education happens to the wider piece. It's not about what you posted. It's about, okay, how do I look after now that because you can't change it. You can't change. Okay, you posted cool. There's no point going, why did you post that there? That's not going to change anything. But that's the conversation that has got to happen. And it's really interesting, Mackenzie, because what you said just now really resonates with me because when I was doing my last job, I remember going to a girls' school, and I share this all the time. And I remember the school shared with me that they did a survey at the girls' school, and they said, "Hey, students, what is your number one fear at school? Like, what is the biggest fear that you have at school?" And you can imagine what it was. The number one fear was that somebody would take a picture of them and post it online. And I was like, that is so interesting. The number one fear when you go to school is that. That's pretty crazy. So yeah, like you, I'm interested to see what happens in Australia. There could be good things, bad things, but as you said, no ban in life is 100% effective. When we look at anything in the world that's banned, it still exists. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I love that share, and I also want to ask you a question that has been resonating about. Leadership is something that is really passionate for you. What would you say your leadership style is, or your leadership way is? You spoke about change, but if we were going to write a book about Mackenzie, and we're going to say Mackenzie's leadership style is in set, what would you say?
I think, well, so I actually done this profiling, so that was very interesting to see how accurate that was. Like, yeah, when I got my report back, I was like, wow, this is like exactly me. But I think, like I said before, my leadership style is very people based. Like, I am not someone who will necessarily do all the written tasks and do all the spreadsheets and do all of the kind of really important tasks. I am someone that will make my decisions based on how it makes people feel, whether it's the right decision necessarily or not. If it's something that I want, but it's going to affect everyone else really negatively, then I'm like, okay, got to find something else. So I think it's just very authentically empathetic and very people oriented, and yeah, just really putting people first. I think we need all different types of leaders to make things work. And, we do need those leaders who want to be more behind the scenes and doing the spreadsheets and doing the tasks and all of that. Like, that plays such a crucial and important role. But I think for me, I'm just like, no, it's all what's happening out in the world and how are people feeling, and is this decision that I'm going to make going to have a positive impact or a negative impact, and just really making sure that everyone's accounted for in the decision. So yeah, I think it's just so people oriented.
Love it. Can I guess you're either an SI or an IS?
Yeah. So I am an IS. Yeah.
Just like me. Just like me. I'm an IS. Give me a report to do, it's never going to happen. Give me a person to talk to, all day,
Yeah.
all day. It's pretty funny. It's the emphasis of our podcast. I can do all the talking and find all the people, and then Tanya does all the other things, which I'm like,
Yeah.
ah. Or when I do them, it takes me forever, and I just leave it. But I love that. It's so funny. Mackenzie, I also noticed that you've also been part of GirlBoss, and what's that been like with GirlBoss and Alexia?
That is, yeah, something else that's been so incredible for me. Alexia, that she has just changed kind of my whole life and my whole world. That was kind of one of the first opportunities that really opened a door for me. And I think GirlBoss is such like an example of what the world needs. And it's an organization that supports, such an important kind of part of every young girl's life. And, really is almost kind of like, I don't know, like I almost kind of feel like it's hard to put into words how I feel about GirlBoss. They have just, really opened a door for me. And I have been really lucky to go back to the last two Canterbury GirlBoss Awards and be a part of the day and support the team in kind of awarding these incredible young women their awards. And that's been really powerful too, to go back and share my story of how GirlBoss has changed my life, but also see these other incredible young women that are coming through and just completely changing the game. And I think, just like I'm so like forever grateful to Alexia and GirlBoss for kind of starting kind of what has been such a journey the last few years. Like, that was kind of the first opportunity kind of in that space, which has been really incredible. But it's a pretty awesome and special organization, GirlBoss.
So, Mackenzie, you said to me that it's very rare for you to be speechless, but right now I think you're speechless about what GirlBoss has done for you.
Yes, I'm forever grateful to them. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's really, really, really awesomely epic, really wonderful. Mackenzie, you do all these cool things here. How does Mackenzie look after herself in amongst all the stuff? You're still 19, right? You're still 19, and let's think about your other 19-year-old friends that are at university, doing first year university. Do you also engage in all the things that a 19-year-old does as well? Or do you go, this is my world, I'm doing this here?
No, I definitely do. I definitely think it's very important to have a work-life balance. And for me, I definitely class kind of my leadership and my advocacy as work. So I do make sure that I spend some time away with that, with my friends. And I'm really looking forward. We're going away after Christmas, so that'll be a really good time for me to kind of reset and kind of start fresh away from work for a bit. So that'll be really awesome. But I am also someone that I might be out for coffee or something and an email pops up and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm thinking about that email and replying to it when I get home and stuff like that. But I do think it is really important for young people and for anyone to have a really good work-life balance and make sure that you also get some time to do the things that you love and enjoy. It is also sometimes hard when my friends don't necessarily have the same kind of experience as I do, and so they're like, oh, do you want to hang out like later? And I'm like, oh, I've got like a meeting or something like that. So also managing kind of those relationships too, and making sure that I do also make time for those other people that want to hang out with me and do the things that a 19-year-old does do in their spare time.
Yeah, and it's so interesting is that because, we're living your worlds and everyone's living their own worlds. And they might be like, Mackenzie, what's up? Why are you doing all this stuff here? Because they can't see your world, right? None of us lives in each
Yeah,
other's shoes. So it's
yeah,
interesting, isn't it? How that happens. And I'm also gonna challenge you, Mackenzie. Lots of people use the word love, work-life balance, and I realize this is actually just a myth that doesn't actually exist because you can't really balance the two. So over the last few months, I've been thinking about that thing, and I've actually I think because if you balance things, that means you're letting something go. And a frame I'd like to use is work-life alignment or work-life integration. So those are just a challenge for you to think about if you want to use those in your work-life alignment or work-life integration. Have a think
yeah.
about that there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely be changing that out.
What will happen that you might actually produce? That's a waste of time. I love a balance. I love a good scale. Give it to me. Beauty. Mackenzie, anything else that you want to highlight that's not out there that the world knows about you that you want to share before we round up the podcast that you think our listeners would like to know about you or the work that you do?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think probably just something for everyone and kind of no matter what space you're in. But I think recognizing that sometimes you don't know what's happening behind closed doors for people. Yeah, went through my granddad passed away at the end of 2023. You know, he was my rock and my everything. Kind of going through that grief journey was obviously very difficult, but it was interesting. It was right at the time of my NCA exams. And I showed up to my exam and I did my exam and then I went home. And it was kind of one of those things of no one at the exam knew what was happening for me behind closed doors. And kind of no one saw what that grieving process looked like. And I think that's something now that I am very vulnerable in sharing about my grief journey and navigating loss and change. When I spoke at the Thrive for Life Changemaker conference, I spoke about losing my granddad and kind of having to show up to my exam and, you know, do really well, but then going to the car and just losing it. And there was actually a young girl that came up to me after and she said to me, she said, you just have no idea how much that meant to me. And I feel like that was such like a moment of wow, my story impacted someone else who had experienced the same things. And I think that kind of really taught me to just have a bit more kind of, I guess, leeway on the rope of what you hold people to, because you don't ever know what's happening for someone when they're away from whatever space you know them in or whatever capacity you know them in. And I think it's just as people and as humans, we're sometimes very quick to judge or quick to jump to conclusions. And I think sometimes we just need to have a little bit more empathy for people and kind of actually maybe reflect. Maybe they've had a really hard day, or, you know, maybe they're going through something really hard at the moment in their life, or, you know, just something as small as, you know, their car didn't start this morning, so they were late and things like that. And I think it's really just kind of important as humans to, yeah, not be so quick to judge and not be so quick to kind of make assumptions about what people are going through. Because, yeah, I mean, I think I didn't expect to kind of stand up and share my story because at the time it was very raw and, you know, very vulnerable to kind of talk about losing someone. And I think it's almost sometimes such a taboo subject to kind of talk about loss and about grief and that kind of change that happens for people. You know, it's almost kind of, oh, you don't want to ask in case it touches a nerve, but almost actually there's something also very powerful in kind of sharing that experience so vulnerably. And I think like after that young girl came up to me and said, you know, like, I experienced the same thing, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that today. That was really solidifying to me of actually my story matters. And you know, just because my story is different to someone else's or something like that, there's some real power in actually saying how you're feeling as well. But yeah, that's probably, yeah, something that I think is really important.
And I love it there because it's a reminder to every single one of us that every single person is fighting a battle that we don't know. Like
Yeah,
everybody, every single battle. And as you said, it might be a big battle, like losing somebody, a loved one, or it might be the fact that the car didn't start. Doesn't actually matter because, and I, this quote here has always stuck in my mind. It's from Joe Rogan, and the quote is, "The hardest thing you've faced is the hardest thing you've faced,"
yeah,
and that really is profound because whatever the hardest thing is for you is the hardest thing that you face. So it could be this, you're kind of starting, or it could be you losing your grandfather, but that is the hardest thing that you have ever faced, and we cannot negate someone else's hardest thing that they've ever faced. And when I heard that, I was like, this is really, it's really true. And we forget about that. We always think about me. And we forget that actually me is actually just me, but the rest is everyone else.
Yeah.
So thank you for that there. That's really, really powerful. And thank you for sharing that there. And also the other thing that you have raised there is whenever we're speaking, everything you say, somebody's going to hear something that relates to them.
Yeah,
And it could be
exactly.
anything. It could be anything. I love it. Mackenzie, that was really beautiful. But I'm going to test you again with another question. Test. It is a test. It's a test because you've given us something really powerful here. And we're going to run up the podcast. This has been really beautiful. But as we close our podcast off, we ask every one of our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. Because our podcast is called Boss of Knowledge. You've shared some amazing pieces of knowledge, especially the last one. But my question for you is, could you share another piece of knowledge to put into our basket of knowledge for our listeners and ourselves to take away and think about?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my favorite kind of sayings or quotes is just enjoy the process of becoming. And I think another thing we do as people is we are always looking to the end goal or what's ahead or what's next. But I think actually enjoying the moments working up to that and enjoying the process of actually becoming the person you want to be, becoming the leader you want to be, is really important. Because I mean, as I said, like at the start, like if 9-year-old could see me now, she would be pretty impressed and pretty proud. But there wasn't necessarily many times in that journey that I actually just enjoyed the process of becoming the person I am now. So I think that's kind of a quote that I really love now, is actually just to kind of take those moments to enjoy all the little things that are leading up to such an exciting future.
I love that. Enjoy the process of becoming. It's very similar to it's not the destination, it's the journey, but I love the way you put it. Yeah, enjoy the journey of becoming. It's really, really beautiful and really powerful because we all forget about that there, and it's actually quite timely because I have a webinar tonight and I'm going to talk about that. So yeah, boom, and I'll reference you. Don't worry, Mackenzie. I get no money, but I'll reference you anyway. Mackenzie, thank you so much for your time today. It's a Sunday for those of you listening. Whenever it's a Sunday, and Mackenzie's given up a time to jump on, and she's going to have a family birthday in a few hours, which is amazing. Mackenzie, as I listened to you today, I just took away some really powerful moments about the way you lead. People first, about empathy, about it doesn't matter how old you are. You can still make change, but also the recognition that this doesn't happen alone. You've had GirlBoss, you've had Zonta, you've had your colleagues in the youth council. But at the end of the day, it's about you saying yes to those opportunities. You can have everything out there, but if you don't say yes, then all that just goes out the window.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thank you for sharing. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank
sharing, Mackenzie.
you for having me.
For those of you, yeah, no problem. For those of you that have listened to the whole podcast, thank you so much. If you have fallen asleep along the way, go back and listen again because it's a pretty powerful, power-packed podcast, and feel free to share it among your community. Till next time, don't forget to find a reason to smile. Don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. And as Mackenzie said, don't forget the process of becoming. Enjoy that process of becoming. Till next time, kakite everybody. Bye. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.